Hey everybody, welcome to Uber Grace. Have you ever noticed when people are talking about the sheep and the goats, right? That it's always the assumption that we're the sheep and they are the goats, that we're all right, we're doing it, and they're not. It's horrible, isn't it, the way we think sometimes. But anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about this parable from Jesus. It's Uber Grace, it's going to be Uberlicious. Now, what I wanted to say, first of all, is that it is a parable, okay? This is not something that's going to happen. Some people believe there are going to be a ruck of judgments. Some people have got up to 13 different judgments that are going to happen in the future. This is from a Jesus that said, I ain't going to judge, right? So anyway, this is not going to be something that's going to happen in the future. This is just a parable. It is a story to make a point, most of which has been missed by our craziness that we keep going through. Anyway, that said, the story basically, for those of you who don't know, he's saying that all the nations, nationalities are there before him, before the king, and he sifts them through. Some are sheep and some are goats. Now the point is that back in Israel, back in the day, probably still today, sheep and goats are fairly similar looking things. So you can't really tell by looking at them often which one's which. You have to really know, okay? So the point is, you can't tell from external view which ones are the sheep and which ones are the goats. How can you tell which one's which? In the end, the sheep win, the goats don't, okay? What happens is, he says that people who go around, and there's a list of things, but it's not exhaustive, it's just, a list of, if you feed the poor, you clothe the naked, you look after the lonely, the prisoners, you visit the prisoners, which of course back then was a big thing, because once you're in prison there was no looking after you from the state. So yeah, it was all those sort of nice things that are outside of yourself, things that you have to give of yourself for someone else. Selfless acts, okay? Random acts of kindness, we often call them today for whatever reason. And if you're doing those, then you're a sheep, and you go on into, well, hey, okay? If you don't do those, you're classed as a goat, and you go over on this side, and in the English translations, most of them, but not the literal ones, the accurate ones, but in most of the translations, it says you're going to go into the eternal fires, okay? Which makes it sound, basically, it gets a bit confusing for people. Am I saved by my works then, or am I saved by my faith? Neither. You're saved by his faith, but actually that will lead you to be doing stuff. If you've truly got yourself in line with the heart of God, you are naturally going to start doing things for others, not just for yourself, okay? A lot of people do this who aren't Christian, way better than us, but that's a whole other thing. Now, in amongst this, we've got this threat, if you like, of eternal fires for the people that aren't doing the selfless random acts of kindness, or the planned acts of kindness. But we know from our studies that the word eternal actually isn't in there. It's the word aenos, isn't it, for eon, age. So it's fire of the ages. And we also know from our studies through scripture that fire actually is a purifying agent. It gets rid of the naff stuff and brings through the pure. Okay, so what Jesus is talking about here is if you're actually living out of your heart of love for others and doing all these things, your life's going to go, actually you're going to get some real benefit from that. But if you're not doing that, what's going to keep happening in your life is there's going to be quick sort of purges of fire. Not real fire, this is figurative fire, but fiery things happen in your life to just purify that heart of yours till you come to a point where you might be able just to naturally do some of these things for others. There are people that go out doing good for others, for themselves really, to make themselves feel better. Similar situation, the fire comes. It's not like burning at the stake or burning in hell forever. This is the fire of the ages. Our God is a consuming fire, but our God is love. So it's a consuming fire of love that comes into your life to burn away those bits that are holding us back from being like him in this world. Isn't that a much better picture? I'm not saying it's a nicer picture, but the quicker we just allow God to burn away these things in our lives and we start to live more selfless lives for others, the quicker we get away from this cycle of being the goat and into being the sheep, which is way better in this parable. Anyway, hope that was helpful, and I hope you can just open your heart up to him and see these things happen in a great way. I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe if you're on YouTube, to like, comment, and please share, and I'll see you soon. Bye now.